We'll just be going through a quick tour of the jelly factory today. We'll be going through a few of the things that make the jelly airdrops special. We'll show how to create them, how to create the rewards. We'll go through some of the features about what makes jelly so special. So when you create your airdrop on chain, it comes with a ready-made UI. And we'll just go through some of the other special features like the vested airdrop. In the future, we'll have another session following this on all the things about tokenomics, economics, and all that sort of stuff. But today we'll be going through how to create a jelly airdrop. So without waiting any further, let's begin. So today we'll be creating the Wobble airdrop. And so, I've already started to create a whitelist for this. This is a very fun airdrop that everyone wants to be on. And when you create an airdrop, the two things that you need before this, you actually need to have a token and a list of addresses that you wish to distribute those tokens to. So if you are a taste tester, we'll be giving out a taste tester survey. You'll be able to request your own token. I have some scripts that will be able to create a token for you. And so I've gone ahead and created the Wobble token. The second thing that you'll kind of need is a whitelist. And a whitelist isn't anything more very complicated than a CSV with a list of addresses, Ethereum addresses, Polygon, they're all Ethereum-based addresses, with the amount of tokens that you want to distribute to that person. So the token that I created was 18 decimals, and you'll notice that it will have 18 decimals, 18 zeros followed by the number. It's important that it's in this account amount format, but we'll be sharing this template and you can just copy it. What we'll need is to export this as a CSV. And so we'll go ahead and save this. And instead of doing all of the complicated scripty stuff, we have, am I still connected? Yeah, so just making sure that I'm still connected. So we actually have a Jelly Merkle bot. And so the reason why I was confused just then is because I've actually gone into my DMs with the Jelly Merkle bot. And what you'll see is that the Jelly Merkle bot has been doing a very good job. He's a hungry bot, and he's been making a whole bunch of proofs. And so now that I have my whitelist, I'm going to feed the bot my whitelist. I'm going to give it the magic words generate. And so what's going to happen now is that the Merkle bot is going to eat my whitelist. While it does that, it's going to do a few smart things. It's going to, check that the whitelist is in the correct format, that the addresses are formatted correctly. It's going to sum up all of the addresses and give you the amounts. And it's going to go ahead and create a Merkle proof. And you don't have to know what this Merkle proof is. It's a pretty complicated format to do with hashes and all that stuff. But the Merkle bot will create it. It'll give you what is called the Merkle root, which goes on chain. This is basically like to make sure that it's correct. And it's gone ahead and uploaded it on our server on the internet. In the interest of decentralization, you could upload it to IPFS, use Pinata. You can upload it to on a public GitHub repo. But for our particular purposes, for this demo today, and for most users, you just use the one that we store online. So once we have our airdrop and we have our token, we're going to go to a special contract that is in the Jelly Factory called the Jelly Recipe. Now, this recipe is connected to the jelly factory. The jelly recipe does a few cool things, but most importantly, the jelly recipe talks to the factory and deploys a few contracts. So if you don't already know, a contract can deploy other contracts. Um, Deploying contracts is incredibly expensive, but if it's cloned, it saves a lot of gas. And so what this recipe is doing is the airdrop recipe. It's just going to go ahead and create the airdrop, create the whitelist contract, create the admin contract, and it's going to set them all up together. And so we're going to go ahead and prepare our own jelly airdrop using the recipe. So these are some things I've done before. So the airdrop admin is going to be me. I'm going to be the admin of my own airdrop. That's me. And the reward token is our wobble token. So I have a wobble token. It's the wobble token. And this Merkle root and this Merkle URI was given to us from our beloved Merkle bot. So the Merkle root is there for us. I can find it once again. Merkle URI. URI just means URL. It's nothing too fancy. And again, that could be wherever you like. I'm going to go ahead and submit this transaction. When you're interacting directly with Etherscan, you'll need to press this button. If you're connected to MetaMask, this will go green. You put in your 4 things, your admin, your rewards, and your root. And we're going to go ahead and create the airdrop. So creating an airdrop has 3 main steps. You basically deploy the contract, you approve the tokens, and you add the rewards. And so, like I said, the recipe is going to go ahead and deploy those contracts, set all the permissions, connect everything together. And the very last thing that the recipe is going to do is going to emit a message. And the message is that your jelly airdrop is deployed, and it's going to set your airdrop address. And what we'll see is that as that transaction is successful, a bunch of stuff is going to happen. And the log that we're interested in, that very last log, that our jelly airdrop was deployed. And this contract has created another contract, the airdrop. And when we go to this new address that we just created, we'll see that this is fresh, it's brand new. It would have been deployed a couple of seconds ago. We can double check that it is in fact the jelly airdrop. What you'll notice, it is a clone of the very same one that we used for our airdrop on mainnet, using the exact same recipe. So this is our airdrop. And one thing that's missing from our airdrop so far is that it doesn't have any tokens ready to distribute. So the recipe is good at creating the airdrop. The next thing is we're going to do is going to add some rewards to this airdrop. Now, exactly how you would use SushiSwap or you would use Compound or any sort of DeFi sort of product, you normally have to approve those tokens before you can, the contract can take those tokens away from you. The way that these approvals work is that no one will be able to take your tokens unless you approve it. So back to our Wobble address. So the second step is to approve these contracts. The spender will be our brand new airdrop. And the amount of tokens is actually going to come from our workable. So I want to approve this new airdrop, the ability to spend up to those many tokens from me. MetaMask will go ahead and send that approval, and we'll go back to our airdrop. So in a few seconds, this airdrop, so we've created a brand new airdrop, and then the airdrop is able to take our tokens, and then we go ahead and add the same amount of tokens. Again, we're going to make sure that we're connected with MetaMask. This is going to go green, and when I write that transaction, I'm going to go ahead and add those rewards. Those are the three main steps in creating an airdrop. So we've actually gone ahead and done the vast majority of what we need to do today. One of the interesting things is now that it has rewards, Etherscan is a bit slow. It won't actually show your rewards, but we actually can paste our brand new airdrop address into the Jelly UI. So when you click airdrop, you'll get a URL, and we can paste that new address into the bar. This is this brand new airdrop that we just created. Chain, the only other important feature is this chain ID. And so this particular airdrop was done on Rinkeby. If it was done on mainnet, it would be 1. If it's Rinkeby, it's 4. Matic is 137. Mumbai is 8001. So in our efforts to go multi-chain, this is how we do it. But for this particular airdrop, it is on Rinkeby. One of the difference between, let's say, our airdrop on mainnet is there's two main differences. This is upcoming. The airdrop isn't ready yet. The second difference is that we don't quite have any. Normally, we would have some sort of description. Now, instead of having to put a request to the Jelly team or doing some sort of GitHub pull request, we actually let people manage quite a lot of details about their own page. So in this particular airdrop, we do this by letting you set a document, and a document is nothing more than a key value pair. And some key value pairs, in this particular instance, the description key value pair puts some text under here. You can put whatever text you like. Normally, if, let's say, in our example, when we update our airdrop, we would also update the text. So in the example of our second month airdrop, we updated the text accordingly. What we're going to do is we're going to add some text ourselves. So in this, in our Jelly airdrop contract, under the write contract, we're going to go ahead and set a document called description. And you can add any text you like, and the format is to put a space on a new line. We use these \ns. So we can go ahead and connect to Web3 once again. We're going to go ahead and add this particular text to our airdrop. So hopefully what we'll start to see is our airdrop is slowly becoming our very own Wobble airdrop. So in this example, I posted any text I like. I've given us a new line. The last thing that we can do with this particular airdrop, at some point, you'll want to actually unlock the airdrop. At the moment, the tokens are not yet unlocked. We can set the airdrop to be claimable. Maybe in the Jelly particular example, we updated the airdrop 3 times before it became claimable up into our token launch. So you can go ahead and update the proof as you need. But at some point, we want to quote unquote set the jelly. And so we do this in your airdrop contract by using the set jelly airdrop. The admin that we set when we first start the airdrop, only the admin can set the airdrop. And so for this airdrop, you have 2 main choices. If I press this button now, this set airdrop, it would create the airdrop and those tokens will be unlocked and your users will be able to claim right now. If I were to click set airdrop, this is an airdrop in seconds. So if I put 1,000, it'll drip in 1,000 seconds. In our modeling, I have some numbers about what 6 months is. So if I were to put 6 months in here, this will drip it for 6 months. So it's an airdrop where the tokens are vested linearly. Or in our particular case, we actually have a custom airdrop. And so what Jelly did for mainnet, and which is what we're going to do today, is that we are still going to do a 6-month airdrop. We're going to set the tokens claimable to be true. So once I press this button, it'll be true. But I'm going to set a timestamp 2 months in the past. And so you can go to Unix timestamp converters. I put a little, calc in here that kind of multiplies 2 numbers together. But this is a number 20% in the past, 2 months in the past. And what we're going to do is we're going to have an airdrop that started at this timestamp. It's going to go for 6 months. And what we'll see is that that airdrop will start. And 20% of the tokens will be unlocked on day 1. If it was a 6-month airdrop and you set the timestamp to be 3 months in the past, then 50% will be unlocked. So this is the custom setting the airdrop. What you'll notice here with your airdrop is once you've actually set the tokens to be claimable, depending if it's an airdrop or an airdrip, you'll notice that the UI changes. So in this particular example, it's gone from an airdrop to an airdrip because it knows. The claim has been set to live. We can see that there's the magic 42,000 wobbles ready to go. And even though I'm not connected to my wallet, I should be able to see if I'm eligible to fancy claim. Nice. And so you can go ahead and connect your wallet. There's those wobbles are ready to claim. And what we'll see here is that 20% of those tokens are available to claim. I'm owed 10,000 and the full claim date is the 15th of November. And that's pretty much it, to be honest. So there is a few extra things like updating the airdrop that we won't go into today, but essentially what we've done today is we've used the Jelly airdrop recipe. The recipe has talked to the factory and deployed all those contracts and set up everything that we need. We've gone ahead and approved the Wobble tokens and then added those rewards. We've then gone and done a few things like setting some documents to make customize our airdrop to ourselves. And we've gone ahead and set that contract to live. That kind of ends the whole demo flow that we have for today. Just want to switch back to not sharing my screen and we'll kind of take some questions. So if you want, you're welcome to take yourself off mute, say hello, ask any questions.
Hello. Can I ask some questions?
GM, go for it.
GM. All right. So, these might be more generalized, not necessarily 100% related, but maybe yes. So let's just say you wanted to make a token like you just did Wobble. Um, does that need to be unique? Like, if there's already a token called Wobble, who determines like who gets? Is it just first in, best dressed with tickers?
It depends, right? So no one can stop you from naming your token contract whatever you want. So in the case of WOBs, not at all. Uh, you can even make another jelly contract, call it jelly, not a problem. It becomes where you set things up. So for example, when we applied for coin market cap or, do a pull request into, DeFi Llama or Sushi Swap, then it becomes a little bit more confusing. It's in these auxiliary sort of. You definitely want to be the only one on coin market cap. That's just kind of standard. So it becomes a little bit more complicated for
But in theory,
putting
there could
the
be
application.
1,000 jelly tokens that are all completely different, except one is the official one, and or Uniswap or you know Sushi,
Absolutely.
whatever.
On
Okay,
testnet, there is at least 500 jelly contracts that we use. Sometimes it's easier just to deploy a new contract than to kind of set everything up the next time. But yeah,
okay.
no one can stop
Um,
you from making a contract. Yeah.
so every time you edited your jelly contracts, like for example, when you added the description, that's going to be like you're not just signing a transaction. That's an actual you're paying gas to put that live, right?
Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
So ideally, you want to do it all in one go rather than one and then another and then another and then another.
Yeah, so it is a trade-off. The trade-off is between, your ability to self-manage. Um, one idea in the future is instead of putting the full text in the document, we might have, like we did for the Merkle URI, we might have a description URI if your description is too long. But generally, that description is about $5 to $7 to put on mainnet and nothing on Matic Link,
Yeah.
less than a
Okay.
cent.
Um, the other questions I had were, I guess, what are the types of use cases you can see? I mean, obviously, it's an open-end book, so you know,
Yeah.
people are hopefully going to have use cases that you guys can't even think of. But like, what are the kind of main ones that you are hoping or envisaging people would use this type of stuff for?
I'm happy to answer that one if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I was thinking of doing maybe just a session on kind of how do you make the most of, I mean, we'll just take kind of airdrops, and what are the different kind of contexts you can use it. So and I think as the market changes, then we start to see some different ways people are using airdrops to maybe how they were a year or 6 months ago. So what we're seeing with some of the projects at the moment is that, you know, maybe they're trying to figure out when exactly they want to launch their token. Like launching a token this week is probably not super attractive for a lot of people, but maybe they have a community that they want to reward contributors, really similar to how we did in the beginning with Jelly. And so actually having the airdrop in that unclaimable state, but the actual tokens, sitting in the airdrop pool and, every month or so actually updating the whitelist, adding either more people or more allocation to their airdrop. Is a way people are like a few people and projects are starting to look at, kind of how to use the airdrops. And I think that with the jelly airdrops, you would have seen from what Professor Wobble went through is there are like a lot of kind of advanced settings that allow you to do this. So that I think that's one of the popular ways I think people will do it, and then projects get quite a lot of flexibility about when do they actually launch the token. Whereas early contributors know that their contribution is getting rewarded and they can see that. So yeah, I think that's one example. And I've been looking a lot at, and I'll just give another example which is totally different. So in the space where I guess a project is like in a really early growth stage and they want to scale up their community really quick. One of the reasons you'd use an airdrop like this. So I guess I won't go into all of the detail, but in this other session, I want to go into a bit of the kind of economics of different ways of doing airdrops and on different networks, and there's a lot of these kind of competition airdrops where they'll send tokens to say 50 people, whereas I guess what Jelly's really good at with the Merkle proofs is really large scale airdrops where you have quite a big whitelist. So you might have thousands of people on that, and so I'll give you a really specific example that's come up in another one of our conversations with projects. Is this idea of you see it with NFTs a lot. You've got the 10,000 PFP collection. So you might have more than 1,000, more than 5,000 people on an airdrop claim, and it's quite easy to get that whitelist. It's quite easy to query, using June Analytics or just looking at the holders for a certain NFT collection, and there you have it. You have a whitelist, and you can airdrop them a new token. And so one of the ideas with how to use Jelly was like a race to claim. So really good for people kind of wanting to target, or like select maybe one or multiple NFT projects, put everybody on the whitelist and say, the first 1,000 people to claim, from this airdrop get, 10,000 of these tokens or whatever it is. And so I think that's a really different kind of reason why they're using the airdrop, but for very quickly growing a kind of community base, I think that can work well. And you saw how Professor Wobble in the demo added the rewards separately to kind of creating the contract. All of these things are, and all of these settings are a bit deconstructed so that it can kind of give people maximum flexibility around how they want to use the airdrop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that give you a few ideas? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the NFT one sounded like something would be fun just to try. Like, you just take a snapshot of all the punk holders, let's say, and say, okay, here's 69 punk tokens for everybody. Something like that.
Yeah.
Or, and you can do it for any community or any, bunch of communities. And then, maybe the community decides how it's used, if it could be used as a governance token or whatever they're going to use the token for.
Exactly.
The race claim is a fun idea because in my example, I just added all the tokens that the Merkle bot told me to. In the example where you under collateralize your airdrop, so if I only added half the tokens or 10% of the tokens, then it would be a race to claim, because once it's empty, the 11th person can't claim. So because we can handle giga scale airdrops, like hundreds of thousands of people on the whitelist, you could put a lot of air projects and then have a race to claim. So that is a good idea.
Yeah, and I think a lot of projects are, people are using airdrops for lots of different reasons, and it's a really useful way to distribute rewards and use them as incentives, but one of the things that's really powerful, from a project perspective, is that when you can see the engagement and that the engagement is like high engagement and people are kind of quick to act with it, then you've got kind of an active community rather than having an airdrop maybe that never expires with all of the punk holders. There might be people that never. There's probably definitely going to be people that never engage with that, or never see it. So and I think a lot of people in this market now, projects, are very wary about how they use their tokens and don't want to waste them as well. So that's some different ways that people do it. But yeah, as I said, I think that I'll do a topic, a session, especially for taste testers when they're coming up with ideas for what kind of airdrop you want to create, where we can model some of this and talk about whitelists and talk about kind of tokenomics, how many of the token pool do you want to allocate to what kinds of people. So you would have seen Professor Wobble had some spreadsheets. So yeah, these are templates that we open up and share with projects and the taste testers that you guys can use to plan it out and model it.
And so let's just say that I'm going to airdrop 1,000 people X amount of tokens, but then I wanted to create a market for those tokens on Uniswap or SushiSwap, whatever. Can you just add an extra address and then give that address, more tokens, and then use that address to create the liquidity pools? Is that kind of how you would do it, or?
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Different.
So what's interesting as well, so this maybe goes a bit broader into kind of the Jelly ecosystem, is, I actually think the trend, this is just, I think that the trend is moving towards an earlier and earlier airdrop in terms of a token launch, and then of course you want to add the liquidity pool so that you can trade the token on the secondary market, and then of course the next thing that comes around when you think of that is how do we get others to add to the liquidity pool, and the incentivized liquidity mining and farming. And so the projects that start with their airdrop kind of recipe, we hope that some of them also find the farming recipe useful for when they're coming up with different ways that they can incentivize and reward people that add to that as well.
Right, so you use the farming recipe that you guys have created on, as the second stage of the airdrop recipe, basically.
Yeah, I think as like a kind of different utilities for projects to use along their journey of launching their token. These are things that when we were building for other projects, that's what people needed, is kind of started with the airdrop. Alongside that, there was a kind of farming piece, and all of these projects are doing need these very similar pieces, and yeah, that's what Jelly helps with, is helping with all of those different kind of mechanisms for rewards distribution.
The other thing I was thinking was, like, on it, probably not many people know about Jelly at the moment, right? So if they see that they've got this airdrop, people are weary, or they think, okay, is this a scam or a rug or whatever? But maybe you get to the point where, it's a recognized name, and okay, that's a Jelly airdrop, that's trustable, I can trust the website, I can trust that I'm going to claim the token and I'm not going to get rugged or whatever. But is there a part of the recipe where you can add, like, I don't know what you would call it, like custom code or something, so that they're still using the recipe, but adding your own flavor to it, or is it a pretty standardized amount of things that you can change, like the description and the amount and the time?
I might start this and then Wobble, you can talk a bit about the recipes in the future. But I mean, look, the first few projects we're working with, we're open to any of their thoughts on, like, are there features that they really need that we don't have, or if you're talking about, the kind of UI, might they want to customize it? I think people, we were worried about that at first, but I don't think people have been too worried about that. I think in kind of Web3 ecosystem, people are used to using kind of other UIs. So there's that part, and then maybe Professor, you want to talk a little bit about, we've kind of got the vanilla recipe, but what kind of the future of recipes look like.
Yeah. So remember how the way I like to build everything in the Jelly Factory is very modular, and normally everyone would shove everything into the one airdrop contract. We've actually separated the admin controls, the list contract, and the actual Jelly airdrop. So if you had the ability, if you had a Solidity developer who was able to, you can actually, in fact, because you're the admin, replace the list contract and replace it with a more advanced list contract that does some sort of complicated logic. For example, maybe not everyone on the whitelist is eligible. Maybe it was, you have some, like a lottery airdrop where the list contract will invalidate 9 out of the 10 people in the whitelist based on a hash in the future. So you can actually upgrade the list contract. Very similar to how our jelly farms work. So our jelly farm has an external rewarder. So our airdrops have an external list contract, but the recipe, when you press that one transaction, it actually goes ahead and deploys those 3 contracts and sets everything up together. So that's one way, and you can have all sorts of weird lottery airdrops, hash lock drops, all sorts of things. What the UI does, it just handles the claim, and the list contract, and is just saying, in our airdrop we gave it a Merkle proof and we said this address has 800, and at the moment the list contract just regurgitates what you've given it, but that list contract could have any arbitrary sort of logic in there. What other flavors were you talking about? So one thing that's really unique to an airdrop is a lot of the work in terms of adding all of the complexity or logic, or so the doctor actually goes through a lot of details in terms of how to reward and incentivize, and so a lot of that is done off chain in a spreadsheet. Who gets what, how, and then once it gets put in the proof, then people can claim. So unless it's something more complicated than a lucky airdrop, most of that incentive engineering is done off chain in a spreadsheet, and then it gets put into an airdrop.
Okay, cool.
What other fun stuff were you thinking?
Well, I was kind of just more of a security question, because I know that there's some tokens, for example, that I don't know how they work, but if you claim them or they go into your wallet, they can drain you of other funds, or I don't even know if that's how it works. But more, I was kind of thinking I don't know, how moldable are the contracts if somebody wanted to add some malicious code in there, potentially?
Gotcha. Yeah. So 2 important things. Generally, how most of those scams work is that you'll get airdropped a token, and when you go to transaction, it will give you an error message, and it will generally give you a website to quote unquote unlock those tokens. And it's in that particular malicious website that you falsely approve the wrong tokens. In our example, it's mostly about the approval of those tokens. And so because you know you're going to app.jelly.io and the approval, like there's actually no approval on our website. You can either claim or you can fancy claim. So all of our airdrops by default come with fancy claim. And there's, I'm going to say this with quote unquote, don't quote me on this, but there's little to no risk by actually claiming those tokens into your. It's how you interact with those tokens afterwards. So getting airdropped malicious tokens is fine. It's that when you transfer them, it's going to give you a message say it's bricked. You need to go to space.com, and that's where the maliciousness happens.
Yeah, and like you said earlier before, I think that we definitely want to develop a reputation in market for being kind of a trusted place as well to claim from airdrops. So anything that makes it more trusted or more secure for the user, they're the kinds of features we're interested in. As a place for people to just come and claim from and know that they're not having to go to some weird dodgy site and connect, their wallet that also has their CryptoPunk in it, just to claim, these speculative tokens.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, is Fancy Claim going to be part of this somehow?
Yeah, so Fancy Claim is with all of the airdrops. It comes by default. It's part of the airdrop recipe, and it's by default in the UI. So yeah, everyone who does every project who creates an airdrop with Jelly, they get that. And then who knows, over time, people hopefully see the value of that, and maybe that kind of becomes more of a default feature than this, fancy special feature that it is at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'll let someone else ask questions if they want. I've hogged all the questions.
Just while we're waiting, just put yourself on unmute if you want to ask a question. One of the things that came up just in the AMA channel is I think for a few people in here that are taste testers and are going to be doing the creation of their own airdrop as part of our testing, maybe they haven't used Etherscan before. So maybe Professor Wobble, did you want to give a quick overview of what you've been doing with Etherscan with the right functions? Because it's quite we use it for creating the airdrops, and we'll teach you how to do that. We'll step you through, but I think it's quite powerful for interacting with contracts anywhere, whether it's on Ethereum or Matic.
Yeah, if you haven't already, it's not too scary. It's exactly how I did it before. As long as you connect to MetaMask, it's like connecting to any dApp these days. The only really scary thing is all those zeros for those 18 decimals. Generally, the most tokens are 18 decimals, but that's nothing to be scared about. What will happen is that the best way to learn with these things is to do. And even though it looks scary, generally to create your airdrop is only 4 things. The Merkle bot gives you 2 of those things, your address and the token. With the paste testers, we'll go ahead and create a few tokens, and I might do a massive airdrop of wobbles for anyone else who wants to create their own without putting the request. But like I said, the best way is to actually learn is to press a few buttons. There's 3 steps, and we've put a lot of engineering effort to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah, and that Etherscan part, I mean, that really just allows you to interact with any contract. So Etherscan specifically on that network, but like there's Polyscan on Matic, etc. But Etherscan is going to allow you to interact with any contract, so you'll get to see what it looks like to kind of use smart contracts without kind of going through the UI as well as part of this. All right, is there any other questions? Otherwise, I'll wrap up and just talk a little bit about next steps for taste testers. Right, cool. So for taste testers that want to actually create their own airdrop, we're going to be doing it in a series of stages. So I think it's probably something like 4 or 5 stages, where the first one will be giving us a bit of feedback on how we actually explain how to create your own airdrop, because that'll help us with things like the instructions for projects when we share it more publicly and wider, how to create an airdrop. And you'll also get to choose your own token if you want to. So it doesn't have to be Wobble. It can be whatever you want. So we'll gather some of those details and get things set up for you. So that'll be the next step, and then it'll be things like creating a whitelist. I might do that session on what are different ways you could create it, and then we'll go through and support you all through the steps as you get to create your own airdrops using Jelly.
Obviously, everyone's going to want the Wobble token, so...
Right, well, thanks to everyone who came today, and thank you very much, Professor Wobble, for showing us how to create your wonderful Wobble airdrop today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for visiting the Jelly Factory today, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.